Today, I am speaking with Jonathan Fitch and Cole Chalab, the co founders of GlucoSense, an AI powered diabetes companion app that goes beyond traditional tracking. GlucoSense connects with Dexcom and Abbott Freestyle Libre CGMs and brings together sleep, meals, insulin, and exercise into one meaningful view. Each day, users receive a daily glucose score paired with helpful insights and tips to navigate blood sugar with confidence. The idea came about when Jonathan experienced a scary situation in college, and we'll hear more on that story. So, Jonathan and Cole, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
I want to make sure we're starting at the very beginning so that everyone listening gets a good sense of a GlucoSense. Oh my gosh, do you guys use that all the time? I'm totally going to say that multiple times throughout today. A GlucoSense of everything that's going on. So, please, if you will, tell us a little bit about your personal story that sparked the creation of GlucoSense.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been living with type 1 diabetes for 14 years. And I was at Georgia Tech studying industrial engineering. I had a relatively unpredictable seizure. Well, I mean, I don't think anybody would say living with diabetes is easy, even if you have a quote unquote good A1C. I've always been around 6, going to the doctor. Typically not a ton of recommendations. Oh, you tend to go high here or you go low this time of day, or we can change up the pump that you're on or switch insulins. But it's like, I do the same thing multiple days, but some days I mean, especially through my teenage years, you just like skyrocket for no apparent reason. And it always felt like I was battling with something that I was considered to be like in the top percent at managing. And then I had an unpredictable seizure during finals, and albeit that day was a bit different than others, I stayed up all night. I was stressed. I was cramming. I was insulin resistant. And then the pump didn't account for the fact that I just finished the final, that it didn't account in the correction dose I recommended. The stress, the lack of sleep, that I had just finished the final, that I was walking 20 minutes back to my dorm. And in less than 45 minutes, I went from 300 to under 40. And I got a notification 60 seconds before I had the seizure. And that was the moment where it was like, we're going to get better sensors, we're going to get better pumps, but there's nothing by my side that can help me live a simpler day or more predictable day, because I don't ever want something like that to happen again. And I know if it's happening to me, it's happening to others. And you go on social media and you see everybody who's burnt out, and the statistics just still point to that. And that's what we're solving.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. That is a terrifying situation. And I don't even think that word, the definition of that word, does it justice. So I'm so sorry that that happened to you, but also thank you for doing something about it. I'm so glad that you're here and I'm so glad that we get to talk about what you do. I know I already have a little bit of insight, which of course we're going to share with everyone today, but truly what you have done because of the situation you found yourself in is incredible.
Thank you. And I mean, Cole jumped into his story as well, but he's been like my best friend for 7 or 8 years now. And after he actually came and responded to the seizure when at the fraternity house, he saw the he saw everything unfold. He's seen the day today. So I'll let you share how and why you became a part of this.
Yeah, so I was at Georgia Tech as well, and I was at the time just kind of I'd known Jonathan and we had been friends for quite a while, and I was at the library with someone else, and the person I was with got the phone call that they had his Jonathan's roommate at the time had was in the room with him as he was seizing, didn't know what to do, and it's kind of that like, oh, there's glucagon, there's insulin. It's kind of chaotic. Like you know what you're supposed to do, but you forget in the moment, and so obviously people called the paramedics, and we didn't know y- in that moment when you haven't lived with diabetes. You don't know what the consequences of this are. You don't know if it's something that regularly happens. You don't know what you're supposed to do. And over the years, we had always known that Jonathan like had challenges with diabetes, we'd go to a football game or go, I mean, candidly to a bar and he would forget his insulin. And I think like at the time we were young.
My pump might have like
Yeah, like his pump might have failed. Yeah, his pump might have failed or his blood sugar, just like things are happening. And I think when you're just a college, 18-year-old boy and you've never had diabetes before, your first thought is like, dude, pay attention more. Like, I'm not going back to the house with you to get that. Like, you should have known. And it was at that moment that I think myself and all of our fraternity brothers and everyone around us kind of realized that this was more than we thought it was. And um, then once we started building GlucoSense, that's when I really got immersed in not just the challenges, but the community, the um, the lifestyle, and the commitment, the dedication, everything about it that I became kind of, I don't wanna say fascinated, I don't think that's the right word, but really connected to the story, and we've been building ever since. Jonathan was in a class, and he started this as a school project, I guess you could say, and he asked me to design a few screens for him. He paid me, like, $100 or something for it, I think, because, I don't know, he did, and one thing led to another, and we were at a startup incubator, and we were raising funding, and one thing led to another, and now we do this full time, and we've been building for quite some time, and I think we're about to release some things that are really gonna change things.
Wow, incredible. And thank you for being such a supporter on this journey. I think there's a difference between a diabuddy and a diabuddy, you know? Right? Some diabuddies have diabetes and some diabuddies are just that support that we need. We could not do it. I don't think we could do it without our supporters. So the fact that you were able to be there is awesome. And the fact that you have this, you said it, right? We have these moments where we're like, figure it out, but it's so complex. And until you're in that moment, you may not know. So to turn that around, that potentially lack of awareness to now take it into this place of empathy and consideration, I think that's incredible, especially as a part of a whole brotherhood, it sounds like. Now I know we've talked about this before, but we are all from the Southern colleges. The sorority and fraternity life is pretty big, and you can find some really wonderful community and support there. I think I know I had some Dia sisters, as we called ourselves, so it can really make a difference. And so I know that you alluded to GlucoSense and some aspects here and what you're growing and learning. So I think we have to know all about it. What is GlucoSense? How is it different from maybe some other options on the market? Take it away.
Sure. So I guess what makes GlucoSense different at its core is the the way we've approached it. And I think we can start with this because it's a bit of a going to be a hot topic. It's the glucose score. The glucose score lives throughout all of GlucoSense, and people will. I know diabetes camps, for example, have ran sessions. Like most of them ran sessions around your more than a number, because I can say I don't feel like my A1C. I feel like my days are more difficult than my A1C reflects, and lots of people share that sentiment. And I also don't feel like my time in range because I can bounce up and down all day and get burnt out and tired. And then I have something that's saying I'm 100%, I'm doing great, or I'm 90%, I'm doing great. Or even if you're like 80%, you could have some really bad lows in those days. So we wanted to build something that can view your blood sugars in a way that's a bit more relatable. And we don't ever push people to get to the top end of number. It's all about helping people identify where you're at. And then that allows us to help you improve or at least meet where you're at. What glucose score ends up turning into is a way that we can be your companion. We understand the highs, the lows, how much you're going up and down. And it allows us to talk about your sleep in a human like way where it's like you might have been 170, 180, had some highs overnight, and we can talk about that in an understandable way because the glucose score is helping us do that. And that lives throughout the entire platform. we're able to compare your days, compare your different events if you go for walks, runs, sleep, etc., and provide education around where you're struggling and have opportunities for improvements, but also celebrate the quick wins. So if you have an awesome night, even if you had a quick low, but you did consistently well overall, we're able to speak about that and say, great job, call it out, point to where there's a slight room for improvement. But we don't want to be a logging app. We're hoping at some point you really have to input nothing. We're learning through your behavior. We're learning through the wearable devices. We already get all the data from your CGMs, and we use all of your historical data to build the profile of you, not the average person out there who looks like you that is supposed to adhere to certain ADA guidelines. We're only talking about you and how we can make your life better. And I think that's a big differentiator because we don't want to get stuck in the crowd of averages and statistics. We really try to have very few data points in the app, so you're just reading English.
If I could zoom out just a little bit for people who have never heard of us before, to kind of give you a bigger picture of what we're doing, GlucoSense is it's a companion in your pocket. So when we think of most diabetes apps, kind of like Jonathan mentioned, we think like, oh my gosh, I have to pull out my phone and log my meal. I have to go log my blood sugar. I have to go log this. I have to go log that. And now where we've entered is a new era of technology where you don't have to do all of that stuff anymore. We have continuous glucose monitors. We have Apple Watches, Oura Rings, Whoop, Garmin, Fitbit that are tracking our entire life automatically. What we realized is those diabetes apps that people hated 10 years ago, it can be something completely different now, something that just sits in the background and understands your lifestyle. And then we take it all so you can connect these devices, your Dexcom, your Libre, your fitness tracker, and we take it all and we pull it into one seamless dashboard, kind of like you mentioned at the beginning. And that's where we start using what Jonathan was talking about, the glucose score, to start to detect patterns over time and say, hey, your blood sugar is a little more unstable during sleep than usual. That could be because of your heart rate or because of you got less sleep. Or hey, this run caused a bigger spike than normal. And you're not doing anything, you're just living your life. It's all being fed to you in bite-sized chunks throughout the day. And so the goal is to help you learn, help you navigate with confidence. And that's kind of our motto is live each day with confidence.
I love that. That's so fantastic. And I think the question that comes to my mind, especially as a T1D myself, I'm thinking, okay, now I know about this incredible resource, but what would it look like for me to use GlucoSense day to day? Do you want to elaborate on that a little more?
I'll say that living your life with GlucoSense today versus next week are going to be two totally different experiences. From just fundamentally, what's going to stay consistent is you'll wear your wearable device, you'll have your CGM on, you'll have them connected, and you can optionally put in food, but we don't really consider it putting in food for the sake of checking back. You're getting a card count on it. So it's to help guide you. I know I've fallen into the trap of, well, if I don't know what this meal is, maybe I'll take 5 units and then we'll adjust from there once I finish eating. But now I have some baseline to be a bit more informed going into the meals. And then we remember everything about how your blood sugars responded. So the next time you have that meal, this is what's coming in about a week, we're going to say, hey, the last time you had a burger, this is what happened. Or the last 10 times you had a burger or something similar to a burger. And the whole point is to offload everything that's in your head. Do less of the memorizing yourself. Have something there that's your true companion and can guide you throughout your day to day and give you insights that's there to do the data interpretation for you so you can focus on making the best decision, not having to play doctor or data scientist or any of those other heavy lift things that we just want to focus on living.
That's fantastic. And I think that kind of brings up two thoughts for me. It's the fact that this interpretation really, or maybe not certain types of interpretation, I guess, right? It's not a full analysis for your whole life or anything, but that makes me think of the glucose score because you both have alluded to it so far, and You've touched on it a little bit. I know we've talked about what it is, right? It kind of summarizes all the information together. But I think I would want to know how is this actually going to help me compared to seeing my time in range, compared to seeing my average, compared to seeing any other statistic that I might focus on personally. And then also maybe you can speak to what it doesn't do, right? I know you mentioned it's not there to make you feel worse. It's not that you don't have to get a perfect score, those kinds of things. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, definitely. I think I I'd love to throw a question back at you first and see if we can work our way up to something. So, have you ever woken up on a day where your blood sugar is maybe 110? You wake up, you're like, this is awesome. But then you're maybe feeling off. Maybe the rest of the night didn't go the way you wanted it to.
Of course.
So, what we did with the glucose scores, let's say you wake up, your blood sugar's 110, but your entire night was spent high. Okay. If you look at your glucose score at that moment, it's probably going to be somewhere in the lower range, a 3, a 4. That's where you wake up. You don't, the goal is not to judge you, but the goal is to say, okay, despite your blood sugar being in range right now and stable right now, you had a pretty rough night. There's probably a conversation we could have or a choice I might make differently because I might be insulin resistant right now, or I might want to lay off the carbs for breakfast just till I get things get things a little more balanced and then approach the day with a new lens. That's one way to think about it. The other way to think about the glucose score is like this. You could have a perfect or what I would describe as a pretty perfect night where you're stable, you're in range 90% of the night, but there in that 10%, you dip. Maybe you dip to 40, your Dexcom starts going off. If you're younger, your mom wakes up, she's waking you up, you got to drink juice. All of that would be missed by time and range or by um, maybe by you just by not reflecting. The glucose score is going to capture that low because we've built it to understand type 1 diabetes. We've built it to understand that type 1 diabetes, you can experience those severe lows or those severe highs, and that 108 being at 180 all day is different than being at 300 all day. It understands that, whereas something like time and range, you get the same time and range. So, how do we take that and apply it across our day? It's really about making those informed decisions, and I'll throw it to Jonathan to kind of explain some of those decisions that he makes throughout the day that are transformed by having this metric to kind of gauge where things are at.
Sure. So with that, I know there's some people totally embrace this number, some people don't, but there's a number out there that says we make 180 decisions per day. Regardless of if that's true or not, we make a lot of decisions. Like that's indisputable. We are thinking about this nonstop. And the goal of the glucose score is to abstract you from every single blood sugar reading where you're going, I'm 137. That's not 100. Should I get back down to 110? We want to get you out of these micro decisions and get you out of potentially chasing a yo-yo. So when you wake up in the morning and you had a difficult night, but you woke up with a good blood sugar, we're like, hey, last night was difficult. Let's make some better decisions or different decisions this morning and have a better day as a result. If we can stop you from going high right after you eat in the morning, then we just saved you probably 20 decisions of, oh my God, how fast is my blood sugar rising? Should I take insulin now? Okay, it's starting to flatten. Now's the right time to take insulin. Should I take 4 units or 5 units? Some people might rage bolus and then they end up in a yo-yo, like they'll bottom out. Our goal is to, let's say that number truly is 180. Our mission at GlucoSense is to use our platform powered by the glucose score to get that 180 to 90. So you can make fewer decisions, but better decisions and truly be in control. And we want to guide you with the least amount of effort possible on your end. You look at it and it's kind of like the source of truth. Where's the day headed?
That's incredible. So let me interpret my summary of this and make sure that I'm correct. So, what I'm hearing is number one, you could help some people with burnout, right? Especially with decision fatigue and having a lot of things to figure out. I believe in the 180 statistic. I feel like it's just, there's
I do
so
too.
many
Like,
things.
I
Yeah.
was on a call
Yeah.
and almost got shot for it. It was like,
Oh my goodness. Did they
Uh,
think it was very different?
It was more of the lack of like clinical validity around it. Some people are so like, I want to see the study and I want to see the sample size and I want to see the indisputable proof. And they just live with type 1 diabetes and you believe it.
Yeah, yeah, man, I was gonna say, whoever is arguing it, maybe they don't have type 1, respectfully. Maybe they don't, I don't know. Oh, yeah, I definitely believe it, and who knows, maybe it's 179, maybe it's 148.4, but anyways, numbers. There's a lot, and so burnout, you're saving people from burnout a little bit, which is fan-freaking-tastic, if I may be so honest, and number 2, what I'm hearing is kind of related to the GlucoSense score itself. It is not meant to be a personal statement. It's not meant to make you feel like you're doing good or bad. It seems like it's a neutral that's guiding you in a direction. Does that sound like a fair summary?
Exactly.
Yes. And that's what we keep updating the language to try to get closer and closer and closer to that there should be zero judgment. It should just be there to help guide you.
Yeah. And I'll take it one step further. It's honestly allowed me to be a better friend. So when Jonathan was coming up, so in GlucoSense, you can share your glucose score, and that's supposed to be for family or care providers or even friends to be able to support each other without that like hyper granularity of being like, oh my gosh, you're low, you're high. And he was coming out to actually to vacation with my family for a couple days, and I saw they had a glucose score of I think it was a 3 or a 2, and I'd never seen him have a glucose score in that zone before, and the first thing I did was, like, texted him, "Hey, are you good? Like, do you need me to get any snacks or water, or do you like, we're supposed to go on the boat. Do you wanna wait a couple hours?" And, it helped me to better communicate that to him, like, if he says I'm high, I don't have a full picture of, like, what's the rest of his day like. When I see that it's 4 PM and he's sitting at a 3 glucose score, like, it's been rough, probably making a lot of decisions, and that's how I've gone on to explain it to families. If your child has type 1 diabetes and you don't, you can see where their immediate blood sugar value is at, and that's kind of what you're worried about, rightfully so, because 'cause you're just trying to make sure that they're safe. But how do you empathize with them? It can be difficult for a child, especially as young as kids are diagnosed, to communicate their emotions about how they actually feel. But if you see that yo-yo, if you see those lower scores, you can say, like, okay, do you need to go into school a little late? Like, do you need to rest? Like, we need to take a more holistic approach, not just correct that high, but like overall balance things out.
That's fantastic. So not only are you helping with burnout in general, just the T1 specifically, but you're also helping with the collaboration of the patient care team, the friends, the family, the significant other, the potentially, who knows, potentially the nurses, the teachers, the people who are there all day long. You help the type 1 diabetic or the individual with type 1 diabetes to not have to explain as much, which that itself can be pretty exhausting. I've found, I mean, I love to talk, so I'll figure it out. I'll explain it. But for those who are maybe a little bit more personal or maybe don't want to have to explain it every time, it sounds like you also have a little bit of a solution there too.
Yeah, that explaining yeah, the explaining portion was infuriating for me growing up. Um, with the Dexcom follow, you had hit like 200. Hey, did you correct for your high? Yes, I've been dealing with it. I don't know what's going on, but you're high, so you're already frustrated. Or if you go low, you've probably already taken something for the low because the Dexcom's blaring. And if somebody's going to text you, you definitely heard the Dexcom alarm. And it, it's frustrating. So the glucose scores there to say their day was normal, they did better, or they struggled a little bit more. And for those days when I was like going to the lake with Cole, he can be there and know that I just need more support that day. but I don't need him managing my diabetes for me. I just need somebody there to comfort and support me. And I think that's really a big piece of what's missing, because you can't expect somebody getting Dexcom alerts on their phone, like my parents, to know what's going through my head all day, every day. And then trying to manage while it shows that they care. It's not what I need.
Absolutely. I think I ran into a similar thing. Mom, if you're listening, she usually listens in things I say. I love you. I'm sorry for what's coming next. But I'm going to tell you the story of why my mom got kicked off of Dexcom Share real quick. So, love my mom. She's amazing. She is the most considerate, wonderful, selfless human being. I always say, is when I'm half as wonderful, amazing, kind, considerate, caring as her, then I'm ready to have kiddos, right? So, anyway, she got kicked off because I would have highs or lows. And exactly what you just said, I would already have done something about it. I'd get this all caps text and I'm graying her actively. Like, poor mom, she's just worried she can't do anything about it. And so if I wish this had been a resource back in back in the day when I was starting college, because I think that would have actually given her a little bit more peace and confidence as well. So maybe that could be a great thing too for our parents listening who might have kiddos going off to school soon, or even like a summer camp kind of vibe. It could be that when we're a little bit separated and we don't have as much of that direct connectivity, that can make all of the difference.
We heard that some camps, they'll look at the child's blood sugars coming in, and they can identify what the parents are like. If you have somebody who's like 80 to 130 all the time, and obviously that's perfect A1C, and the parents are like, you need to keep them between this range. They know that their issue is not going to be the camper. It's going to be the parent. If they're on Dexcom Follow and then their blood sugars hit like 160, they know they're going to get a call from the parent that's like hovering over everything. And then if they get a camper that comes in and they might have an elevated A1C, it doesn't really tell the whole story. But with the glucose score, these camps can now look at these campers as they come in and understand where they're at in their management journey a bit easier, and pair them with counselors that might identify with where they're at in their journey, or other campers. So there's a lot of different creative use cases we're starting to see. We're just starting to scratch the surface, but that camp aspect and parents having some sense of closure could be a great in between.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I will say, I'm actually the reason why I have a different background for anyone who definitely will notice. John, I'm pointing my finger at you, my diabestie. I am going to diabetes camp this next week to be the dietitian on staff. And last year, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's so fun. If you haven't gone to diabetes camp or if you haven't worked at diabetes camp, I highly recommend. I'm a provider and it changed my life. So good. Okay. Yeah, I never got to go growing up as a kid. We were military, so we always moved, and it was just it wasn't something that I was able to do. But again, even as a provider now, as a professional diabetic, going to diabetes camp still changed my life. So highly recommend, and I can see how GlucoSense would be so advantageous for those moments, right? Those little things here and there, the trip, the weekend sleepover, whatever it may be, it can make a world of a difference. Now, here's a question I have because I'm kind of not very techie. I wish I was so much smarter in that world, but I know that you guys will have an answer for me. At least I think. When it comes to the integration of the data, do you have to be super techie to connect everything to GlucoSense, or is it a quick swap of data? How does it work?
You just use your credentials. So the same way you log into Fitbit, the same way you log into Dexcom, uh, it's it couldn't be any easier. It took us a really, really long time to become an official partner of Dexcom, and as part of that, our sign-on process is the same way you sign into your G6 or G7 app. You'll see it in the app. You'll click it.
When you sign up, you'll get to choose your age, your like preferences, your um the things you're struggling with, what your goals are for your blood sugars, what your goals are for your fitness and your lifestyle. And all of that gets bundled into the insights that we deliver so that it knows, you know, it's not going to give the same insight to an 18-year-old as it's going to give to a 50-year-old, or Yeah.
If you're struggling with burnout, your messaging and its knowledge is going to come from clinical documentation that's been reinterpreted and put at a 5th grade level, that based off of burnout and how to manage it and some different strategies. The whole point is to tailor it to you, not give you the book and say, figure it out.
I appreciate that so much. I especially appreciate you mentioning the 5th grade reading level because when my blood sugar is messing with me, I don't want to have to figure it out. And so, the fact that you're breaking it down, making it make sense, delivering it to me directly is incredible. And it kind of makes me think of another curiosity I have, if you're willing to indulge me. I know that you have mentioned, or I know Cole and I talked about this too, about the integration of AI. AI is a part of this application, if I'm correct, or coming up. And so I'm curious about how that works or what your thoughts are for maybe where it will go in the future. Anything you want to share?
Yeah. So right now, the insights you get, um, they're grounded in clinical documentation. There is AI doing interpretation. There's People tend to throw the AI label on everything, even things it's not. So the glucose score is not AI. That was 2 years of PhD level research we did at Georgia Tech to derive it, and we have an NIH grant out on that. But that is an enabler of our AI and the way we interpret your stuff, and we turn it back into English with AI and process information with AI. So pretty much everything you see in the app is very usually will have some layer of AI that's helped create it, but it's all the back the behind the scenes portion of it is all off of clinical documentations in our glucose score. So if you ask ChatGPT to rewrite your emails, I'm sure everybody listening at least understands that or has done that. That's kind of what we're doing with your data with AI. We aren't saying, come up with something entirely on its own and let's hope it's right. We're really trying to play this game where it all works together.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And I will say too, I appreciate your emphasis on the fact that the database that you're using is really high quality and evidence based. I think that's an important distinction to make. And sorry, Cole, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna kind of tell you what you will actually end up receiving with the AI. So it's really cool. I think when we think about most diabetes apps, we think about like having to give more than we get. In other words, you have to put in so much data and then it turns it back and it gives you even more numbers. And you're like, did I ask for that? And so what GlucoSense does is it gives you these little micro insights. When you wake up at 9 a.m., that's probably our most coveted feature is you wake up with little notification on your home screen that says like, hey, yesterday was awesome, or maybe yesterday was a little tougher than usual, and here's why. And the more data that you give it, and I don't mean you manually logging it, but that's coming from your Fitbit. Like if you worked out twice and you did it detected a walk and you slept and maybe you did take a photo of 2 meals, we're gonna piece together your day in that puzzle and say, hey, it was the walk that stabilized your blood sugar, but then it was another spike happened after that pizza, but you actually did a great job managing through and try to recap and give you this reflection. I think one of our users said it best. Well, I'll say two of our users said it best. One of them said it's kind of like Aura for your diabetes. And then the other user he just said, it was interesting. I've never thought about my blood sugar in this way before. Like I've always just woken up and it was the day. Like, the day was the day was the day. And he was saying it's interesting just to get a little glimpse of yesterday in the bigger picture, because I have never thought about my blood sugar on that spectrum before, and that's how GlucoSense makes it simple.
My gosh, it's like having a little professional in your pocket. I love it.
Yeah.
And you said something key that now I'm curious about because as you know, I'm a total nutrition nerd. And so you talked about the food photos. And I know you said that you don't have to log nutrition, but it is an option, right? So can you tell me a little bit more about that aspect of the app?
Yeah, so the food logging works in 3 ways. You can describe what it is you're having, and it's only as good as the description you give it. So if you say I had a grilled cheese, and it's going to assume it's generic grilled cheese. If you say on super thick bread, it's going to, you know, scale up the carbs on the bread. Um, if you take a photo of it, we will, if it's a bad photo, we'll assume averages. If it's a good photo, we'll try to figure out if it's a burger and fries, how big is the serving of fries? Is it like a normal steakhouse burger, or is it a smash burger that's going to have more fat? Um, and anyways, that's kind of how the AI is assessing it. And then you can also speak to it and describe what it is that you add. We're in the middle. We're kind of going back and forth right now, but we're about to push a big release to the food logging. That's going to be a big improvement. It's going to get faster. It's going to get a bit more accurate. We've tied in the entire USDA library. So, this week's almost over, but it might be the end of this week or early next week. You'll see a big update. It'll be faster. It'll be even more accurate. We try to say it's better than a guesstimate. If you sit down at a restaurant, it should be as accurate as your guess or better. Um, don't go trying to compare, is it 75 carbs or 81 carbs? Uh, and always double check what it's assuming the serving size or portion size it's detected. If it's wrong, or we guess too much, because it's only a photo, you can adjust it and it'll adjust the nutritions accordingly.
That sounds game changing. I was gonna ask about that because as a dietitian, I think about a burger on a plate and I think it could be, or like tacos are always my example. We could have a tortilla like this or like this. It can really be anything. And so the fact that you give people the opportunity to make those corrections, to have that collaboration, I said, a mini professional in your pocket. You also have a mini dietitian in your pocket, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the thing. We designed it for type 1 specifically in mind, but it could apply to anybody. So we're not going to tell you not to eat something. We're not going to tell you, don't eat the burger. If you want the burger, eat the burger. But where we're taking it, what's really cool, because there's a million food logging apps out there, but I think what makes GlucoSense unique, especially for living with diabetes, is what's coming in this next release is that we're gonna tell you how it compared to the last time you had similar foods, the blood sugar response. So, this caused a bit more of a spike, this was more stable, or this caused a dip. Whatever it is, it's gonna be relative to the past time. So, if you are that person that likes consistency and likes to keep your routine similar, the more you give it, the more it's gonna know those patterns and the more it's going to say, uh the more it's gonna help you when you say, "Why am I eating the same thing and something different's happening each time?" Or, "I'm eating this and this has been consistent, for me." So we're taking it and adding that layer of blood sugar, answering the questions that you ask yourself.
One thing I want to layer into what Cole's saying, because I know people watching are like, but what if I did something else when I ate? Because it's not always just the food or just that one thing, or I was stressed and these other factors. If it makes its way into GlucoSense, like you just woke up and you ate something right after you woke up, we're aware of all these other factors that can happen that can skyrocket your blood right when you wake up. So the insight that you get will be aware of the fact that you woke up 30 minutes ago. And when we give you that insight, we're not going to say it wasn't just the eggs and toast. You also woke up and these other factors could have influenced your blood sugar spike, because it was way more extreme than what just a piece of toast should cause. Um, as insulin data and all that keeps getting layered in, it gets more and more accurate to the point where it's can really give you like a perfect glimpse of everything. Uh, these partnerships take time, so we're working with the pump companies. We have to work through official channels, so our whole platform is built based off of official integrations. I know people want us to shortcut and do kind of the night scout type approach, where you can just link your Tandem pump, but we're getting there, but we've got to do it with Tandem in agreement, those are the goals of our other partnerships.
I respect that. I think it's incredible to have a sustainable long-term approach, and it sounds like that's the intention there. I was actually going to ask. I was thinking in my mind. I was like, oh, I wonder what are some of the challenges that GlucoSense has faced throughout the journey. I anticipate that that's a big one. Wow, that's so incredible.
He hasn't moved fast.
Yeah, yeah. Hurry up and wait, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned that it's a
a
good
good saying.
life. Yeah, yeah. That's I grew up military, so that's what I learned at least. So I know that you had shared this one awesome success story from someone who felt like the way that it transformed their thought process. That's incredible. Are there any other stories or feedback that you'd like to share about the app?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've seen quite a few. We saw some college and pro volleyball players using the app to what they were able to detect was that their blood sugar, the response that they would have during a match would be different than they had during practice because of the adrenaline. So they were using it to kind of correlate those differences and understand um, how to carb load and how to change up their routines ahead of time. That's been really cool. And then I don't know, I feel like we're constantly getting we when we first released the food logging, we get so many uh positive responses about the food logging, but over yeah, they love that. And then um I remember someone messaged us a while ago and said they had successfully brought their A1C down to an 8.5 a while ago before they started using GlucoSense. And now that no, to an 8.5, and then what they were able to do with GlucoSense was start to refine and get down to 7 and now below a 7, as they weaned off this was actually someone living with type 2, like, weaned off some medications, so we really, like, cater to all of your glucose score is personalized to the diabetes type that you select, or even if you wear a CGM and you don't have diabetes, you could use it as well. It's tailored based on population data for each type of person, so we can really drive outcomes for you that are relative to your life. We're also bringing in the ability to tag days when you're sick or traveling, or the biggest request by far has been if you're on your cycle. And those are things that they're not going to come in through your wearable device, but if you can just tag your day, we'll be able to say, hey, like, this is normal for being sick. Like, don't worry about that. Or, um, like, you're traveling, you're away from home, you're off your routine. That's expected. And start to really build the profile of you.
Oh my goodness, that's so incredible. I can't find a single reason why I don't love GlucoSense. Maybe it's just that, man, I want all those things right now, right? You guys are really crushing it in this world, in this
Yeah.
field. Thank you again for
Thank you.
creating such a wonderful application and for your intentions behind it all. Just to be such a supporter in this space, you deserve so much credit. So, of course, we will have show notes, so I'll make sure that all of your information is down there, but just give us a quick recap. Where can people find you? Where can people go if they want to learn more or take some action today?
Yeah, so you can check us out on our website at glucosense.ai, and GlucoSense is available on both the App Store or Android Store, Google Play. So it's free to download and sign up.
You also follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We put out tips, advice on how to use the platform, or just living with diabetes, fun content that we make in house. And it's just us having a good time. Like, you'll see our story, not just about diabetes, but as us just building the company.
Yep. And as type 1 type fun, I can confirm the content is fun. You guys crush it. I see some and I'm like, oh, that's so good. Oh, I love it. Well, thank you both for today. Again, this is incredible. Y'all are incredible. Keep rocking, keep doing amazing things, and thank you for being here today. That's it for today, my friends, but the fun doesn't stop here. If you liked this episode and want more real talk diabetes support, come hang out with me on social. Just search Type 1 Type Fun, all words, or head to type1typefun.com for tools, tips, freebies, and real life resources you can actually use. And if this episode made you laugh, learn, or feel a little more seen, feel free to leave a comment, give it a like, share it with someone you love. But until next time, live empowered, be silly, have fun, and eat some carbs.